This week we said we would get started on talking about the pass protection schemes. I'm going to try to go over things as simply as I can, but as thorough as I can, in talking about the protections, and then how what protections you guys may use and how they fit, understanding all the rules to the protections, and then the adjustments to the protection. We'll go from there. So Pepe's just getting on. All right, cool, good to see you. And then I'm going to share the screen and we'll get rolling. All right. So the first thing as we get started with protections is just understanding first the different alignments and fronts that we can see, and trying to build your protections or have the understanding of your protections where they fit either into it's a 3-man front, and what do we have to do? It's a 4-man front. What do we have to do? It's a 5-man front. So the top diagram is just an alignment of an Okie or an odd defense, 3 down linemen, plus there's 4 linebackers. When we rule this up in terms of blocking this look, from a personnel standpoint, one of those backer types is going to eventually be a down guy. So we can have 4 down guys and we can fit our rules to a tag or a key in a +1 or a -1 or a Sam, Will, Mike, however you want to term it. But in the 3-man world, we're going to take that 3-man front and we're going to make it a 4-man front, and we're going to assign either by rule or by call one of those backers as a down guy. The middle diagram is a true 4-man structure with a 3 linebacker type. So you have a Sam, Mike, Will. You have 4 already established down guys. Whether you line up in an under front and over front and even front, it doesn't matter. But we know who the established 4 down are. And then in the bottom diagram, when we can start to get these bear structures where we could have a 5-man line, 2 linebacker types, and then all the different adjustments. I've worked with 5 down calls. I've worked with 5-0 calls. I've worked with poker calls. You guys probably have your own particular call for bear, but that usually has its own unique set of rules. A 5 down look doesn't give you a ton of flexibility on how you want to block it, but we'll go through these. So 3-man fronts, 4-man fronts, 5-man fronts as we go. Now, this is the part where I want you guys to think about fitting in a protection concept. And once we understand the lines protection concept, then we'll build in the rules for the back and what the back does. And then once we have the protection concept, how many men we're going to have in the protection, and then the rules for the back, then we can call it whatever we want to call it. But that's how I want you guys to kind of think of this. So there's what we would term man schemes, where we're going to man both sides, meaning the line is going to account for the 4 down and the Mike backer or the tag. And in that protection scheme, in a Mike scheme, the line, no, they're not working to any defender outside of the defensive end. So the tackles are stopping their kick on the defensive ends, regardless of what it looks like. And from the center standpoint, he's thinking he's going to work with one of the guards to the Mike linebacker or the tag based on how you do it. All right. The next scheme is a slide scheme. And when I say slide scheme, I mean it's a 1/2-man front side and it's a slide on the back side. The slide side has the same amount of offensive blockers as there are defenders to account for. So a 3-for-3 or a 4-for-4 slide. Okay, the line's going to account for the 4 down and the -1 or the will, or if we have a tag, they're going to work back to the -1. And when we start talking slide schemes, the call side is the man side. So if we said, for example, 2 jet, the even side or the right side is the man side, the slide side is opposite. So whatever you want to call it, if you live in the 2-back world and you run fox and hound protection, the call side is the man side, the slide side going back to -1, the tag is away from it. Okay, and once again, on the slides, you got an equal number of blockers for an equal number of defenders. Okay, so in that protection, the line is working to 1 backer. In the man scheme, the line is working to 1 backer. When you go down to the sort schemes, it's a 1/2-man, 1/2 sort. Okay, now you've got 3 offensive linemen for 4 defenders, or you've got 4 offensive linemen for 5 defenders. So the difference between a slide and a sort is when we're going to sort the protection, we're -1 in terms of blockers. We only have 3 for 4, or we have 4 for 5. It's not an equal number. So in that standpoint, the line's going to account for the 4 down, the tag, and the +1. And when we start talking sort protections, the call side is the sort side. So if we made a ray call, for example, that the zone concept side is to the right, the man side is to the left. Okay, so understanding what it means, we're short a defender, we're short a blocker, and the sort side is call side in this protection. All right, so just keep that in mind. That's going to come up a little bit later on. Well, if we're just going to talk about gap schemes, full gap schemes in terms of protection, then the line's going to account for either the play side or the backside gap, depending on how your system calls it. But they really aren't assigned a particular backer. They're only assigned someone in their gap. So if you had a Mike backer who started off in the B gap and he ran a blitz and came all the way outside into the D gap, there's no lineman who's accounting for him. They're all going to account for their gaps if it's a full gap protection. Okay, so no one has men. Everybody has a gap, whether it's front side or back side, and the back usually is fitting off of that in some fashion. And then the last scheme I want to just make you aware of is probably one that's probably the least utilized, is what I term turn schemes in protection. And a turn would be similar to a gap, but in a turn, you are working 2 backers as offensive linemen. You're tracking defenders, not just aimlessly sliding into a gap. So that same thought process I just gave you a second ago, if we had the Mike backer and an over front aligned in the A gap, and the guard and tackle are turning to the Mike, and that guy slides and comes outside in the C gap, then they would go follow him, as opposed to a gap where guys just stay down in their gap. All right, so those are the different schemes. Any questions there before we move on? And just understanding what I mean when I say a man scheme, a slide scheme, a sort scheme, a gap scheme, or a turn scheme. All right, let's keep it moving. However you make these for yours, I think the back has to understand some terms, and the term scan, I'm going to use scan and I'm going to, in this presentation, and I'm going to explain what a scan is for me. It may not be the exact same thing it is for you, but having a call to let the back know you've given me a responsibility in the front. After I check that responsibility in the front, I'm going to check my near DB on my side. So if you told me I had will based on whatever protection we have, I also have to double check the free safety in the corner on the backside. So that's what scan means to me. The other term is search that you need to have in your, or at least understand. And that tells you you're going to work, once again, let's say the protection has me on the will. It's a Mike scheme potentially, and or a sort scheme in protection where the line has the Mike or the line is dual reading Mike and Sam. But as a back, you also have to dual read the Sam backer. It's going to be a scheme that's going to take you from just being on your side of the ball, and now you're going to go to the opposite side of the ball and you're going to block a defender. Okay. The term coast is going to be used to tell you that you're blocking your responsibility. And after you're done with your responsibility, you need to once again cross the ball. And now you're checking for the defensive back on the opposite side. Okay, so we can scan to our near DB. We're not crossing the ball with our eyes. We can search to the opposite linebacker, outside linebacker, and or +1, and the opposite DB. And then we can coast to the opposite DB. Any questions there on those 3 terms? Now, the other things I think you have to have in your system is your ability to assist protection or to help the protection. And so everybody here I know has some version of a chip where we're going to assist basically a tackle, usually with the chip. And then the other term I think you need to have, because it's going to come up at some point in some time, is a help term, where that allows the back to fit in a four-man front to fit opposite the slide of the center. So back, guard, tackle can create a 3-on-2 if it's a four-man rush with no blitz on two down defenders, and then the center guard and tackle on the opposite side are working defensive tackle and defensive end. Okay, so that's one use of it. The other use of it is when you have a three-man front, then you coach up the back to work away from the slide of his near guard. So what I mean by that is we've got a three-man front, we've got a help call. If my near guard fans out to the tackle, I don't need to also go help the tackle. Now we have three guys blocking the defensive end, and we have our nose and center singled up. So if the guard fans out to help the tackle, then I'm going to insert inside and look to help the center with the nose. If the guard fans out to the tackle, I look to go inside to help the nose, and the backside guard came down on the nose, then I go all the way over and help the other tackle. So it's our ability to make sure we get 2-on-1s versus a three-man rush if the back is not going to be going out. Okay. And this, and Pepe, this happened to you guys in the bowl game. I believe it was in the bowl game that you played late in the game. Those guys were rushing a three-man rush, and you guys didn't look like you could fit the back where you needed to assist on the three-man rush, and you ended up giving up a 1-on-1, if I recall correctly. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but that's what I can vividly remember that, and making some notes to say, okay, when we get to this pass pro, I got to make sure I address it with him.
Yeah, that did happen late in the game. They were playing drop 8, and so really we were in what you call we were in a 6-man protection where there was a slide with the center, front side guard, and tackle, and really the back's responsibility was to go and help out that tackle, whichever side he was on. So a lot of times in that drop 8, and you're rushing 3, for some reason they get free. So the back wasn't able to get over to the tackle to help him out quick enough, and that's how they were able to get pressure. But I get what you're saying. It will be interesting to hear what you talk about in regards to a 3-down and a 4-down when it comes to that 6-man, because I like to know that.
Yep. And so once again, the part we're talking about is the situation you were in. It's end of the game. You're trying to throw the ball, or let's say it's 3rd and extra long, where the check down to the back. When I say 3rd and extra long, we're not in plus territory. So the check down to the back isn't getting us closer to field goal range. We're punting the ball regardless. So if we're backed up, and we've got a pass pattern where we want to have some time down the football field to get a deeper ball thrown, this help call is a great tool to allow the back to help make sure he's assisting the protection. And then the coaching point becomes with the 3-man front is always start with your play side guard. So if I'm on the left and the left guard goes down to the center, I'm great, because now I'm 2-on-1 with the tackle on the defensive end, and we've got 3 double teams. If the guard comes to me though, then I got to go compensate and go away, look for help with the nose, singled up, I'm going to help there. The guard kind of slid down, then we've got the double team with the guard and the center, then I'm coming all the way across so I can be that help with the backside tackle. There should never be a time, and once again, just in my humble opinion, if we're going to keep 6 blockers in and they have a 3-man rush, that there's someone who's 1-on-1. Okay. Couple tight end terminologies that I think you just need to have in your mind is when you want to have the tight end in the protection full time, is just the ability to tight end and tackle to zone off the defensive end and the SAM. So if it's an odd front and the defensive end's in a 5 technique and the SAM's on the line of scrimmage, then the tight end would block the SAM, the tackle would block the 5 technique in. If it was an overstructure and we had a 9 technique and the SAM backer was inside or outside, doesn't matter. But if let's say the SAM backer's inside, then the tight end would set on the defensive end. The tackle would set to the SAM. If the SAM dropped, then he would give late help to the tight end. So that area scheme is just a matchup zone between the tackle and the tight end to zone the defensive end in +1. And then the other term that the tight end needs is he needs a nudge term. He needs the same chip term that we have. So I'm used to calling it a chip with the back and a nudge with the tight end. So it's basically the tight end's version of a chip is a nudge. All right, so here's going to be some film of just what we talked about initially. We talked about some scans. So the back having a linebacker, that linebacker not rushing, but a defensive back on the same side comes on the rush, and now the back picks up the defensive back that comes on the rush. All right, so this will be just some work of scans as this film plays out. I'll kind of identify the point for you. So the tag is 52. The back has 25 over the tight end, and his scan is to 26. 25 goes to coverage. 26 comes to either rush or hug the back, and we're in position to handle that. Okay, so another example, third down look. We've got 8 people up at the line of scrimmage. We've got to be able to identify who are the downs, identify who is the tag, and then put your rules from there. So the 3 defensive linemen, the nose, the defensive end over the right tackle, and the defensive end in the C gap, those guys are down. The overhang to the right is down. So we've identified this overhang defender on the outside of the hash mark is the 4th down defender on this look. The tag is the linebacker over to our left tackle. So that's the tag as we go. And now from the back standpoint, he's got the linebacker over the right guard to the next defender outside of 31, because once again, 31 is the way we identified this as he's a down defender. So the tackle's kicking to, I believe this is 31 on the right side of the screen. The defender that comes outside of 31 is going to be the back scan. Okay, so just so you have an idea of how we identified it. And then the pickup of the near DB for the back. Okay, here's a easy look. We've got weak invert. It's a tag, a Mike tag, the field side A gap. We've got the Wilt backer on the weak side, and then we get the free safety coming on the blitz. So this is a nice, easy, clean, neat one. 40's the tag, 58's the initial protection for the back out to the defensive back 35. Okay, so once again, just another example of what a scan looks like as we start to give those buzzwords for the back. Okay, the search now once again took me on a protection responsibility on one side or the other, and it's going to force me to go across the ball to the other side and block someone. So all these are going to be looks at the back having to come across the ball to pick up his responsibility. Okay, and this is part of his rule based on what we're doing with the protection. Okay, so right now we've got 55 as the tag. So the center, right guard, and right tackle are going to handle the defensive tackle, 55 and the defensive end to the left of the screen. The back actually has the nickel to the field who's out of the picture first, and then he comes back and bypasses the tag, which is 55, and then he goes to the +1, which is 52. So he's working nickel, who's out of the screen, back over to 52. And then on the left side, the left guard and the left tackle are big on the tackle in the end. So there's a look at a search. Here's another search. We got the double mug stuff. Okay, so we tagged the linebacker in the right A gap. So linebacker in the right A gap is the tag. The back has the linebacker in the left A gap initially, and then he has to work out here to either the nickel or the safety, whichever one of these two defenders over the bunch blitzes, okay? And then the line is going to work, and they're going to work to the linebacker in the right A gap. So just another example of a search, what it looks and feels like for the back in terms of his eyes. And then we can talk about the different coaching points of finding safeties and having an ideal based on tilt to safeties of where your work may be coming to. But really, I want to just pay attention to the scheme stuff here. Okay. And now this one. Okay, so the tag, once again, is going to be the linebacker on the right hash, or right on the hash, okay? Linebacker to the right on the hash, okay? That's the tag. The back has that linebacker right in the middle of the field to the nickel up top from a rule standpoint. And on this particular one, as you guys can see, the defense gets a little bit impatient. We hit them with a freeze cadence. We get them to show movement, and now, you know, we've got all the information we need in terms of where the blitz is coming from, just based on using our cadence and getting the defense to show a little bit. So it's a 50 tag. Back is working 22 across the 28.
Hey, Coach Walk.
Yes, sir.
So we do a lot of scan reads with our protection. What
Yep.
what schematically gets you into the search? Why do you want to do that?
Yep. So think of it this way from a protection standpoint, and we're going to answer this question a little bit later in this discussion, but just think of it this way. If you have a protection, you can have your line block one linebacker and your back block one linebacker, and your quarterback have to answer for the other linebacker. So if you just use the thought process of, we're going to account for 7 people initially with our blocking assignment. The linemen are going to have one linebacker, the back's going to have one linebacker, and the quarterback is going to be responsible for one linebacker, in essence. Now, if you use the term search, or let's go here first. Let's go to now a sort scheme. Let's say we didn't want to give the line just one linebacker, and we want to give the line multiple linebackers. So now we want to give the line the tag and the +1. Okay. Now, to have a problem for the quarterback, he needs both the tag and the +1 to blitz. We can still keep the back on the backside and just scan. So now we've strengthened the protection, meaning this. They need to do something more to force the quarterback to have to throw hot. They've got to bring Mike and Sam, in essence, in a sort scheme. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. If you said, hey, we still want to have the lineman to just handle one linebacker and we want to put him on the mic, then an answer for you in protections is, well, let's have the back be the dual reader now. Now he'll work outside linebacker on one side, he'll search across the formation, and he'll work outside linebacker on the other side. So now from a quarterback standpoint, the saw blitz is the beater. That's the problem that he has to be able to answer. If he just got Will, it's picked up. If he just got Sam, it's picked up. If he gets Saw, that's where he has a problem. So my point to you in saying all that is, we can build our protections with, what do we want our line doing? Do we want them to work to one linebacker? Do we want them to be able to work to 2 linebackers? We can build it in, what do we want our back to do? Do we want him to work to one linebacker, or do we want him to work to 2 linebackers? And then what do we want our quarterback to have to be hot off of? Just one linebacker, or have it take multiple linebackers? And so with those 3 components, then to me, that's how you build what you want for your protection. And then based on the rules, then you come up with how you're going to protect your quarterback. And we're going to go through this. I got a nice chart toward the end of this that's going to explain the different protections and the different problem areas based on what you're in. And for us as running back coaches, we've got to understand what are the problems to a particular protection, so we can help have solutions for that. Or what's our answer when they do this in this scheme? If this is the scheme we're tied to, fine. What are the different answers and what are the different pain points? And make sure we understand and know that. And like I said, by time we finish up, hopefully that is really, really clear to you, Jared. I hope I've kind of answered what you've asked initially, but I know as we go on, I'm gonna be able to give you a full, complete answer. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And so, like I said, the defense here, they kind of show it, but makes the back's job much easier on that particular rep to get to his work. All right. These are things we've got to understand too when we start to build protections in terms of offensive line terms. So we have our back terms. We can scan, we can search, we can coast, and those have certain meanings. Up front, the linemen need some terms to handle problems as well. One of the terms that the linemen need to have is a sift. And what a sift is, it's a single call side lineman who's got a dual read, a defensive lineman, and a +1 tag. Usually it's with the tackle. Could be with the guard on some funky looks, but usually it's the tackle. When we've got a 6-man protection, that is a man scheme where the back is only scanning. So think about that. The back stand on his side, he's got Will. The linemen are going to block the 4 down. They've got Mike. The quarterback is hot off Sam. Well, if that Sam backer gets inside of the defensive end by alignment and is at the line of scrimmage, that Sam is now more dangerous than the defensive end if he blitzes. So from a tackle standpoint, he's going to pass set and take the most dangerous of the defensive end and the +1. In that case, he would block the Sam, and now the quarterback would be hot off the defensive end. The other thing that you're going to need, if you don't try to work it in, is a version of a gap on one side or the other side. The ability to protect your A gaps in protection. Okay, so the terms that we used in Detroit were Gary and Goff. If the quarterback had to protect the right A gap because there was an issue, then he could just make a Gary call, and that told the right guard and the right tackle, we're going to gap down inside, and it told the back, now you're blocking off the edge. And then you need to have a full slide. So the defense gave us something. We had a protection on. We think we're compromised. The quarterback just wants to get out of jail call. Hey, I just want this to be full slid right or left. Then we had a rip Liz call, which was a 5-man full slide, and the back ended up going opposite the 5-man slide. So if we want rip, 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 the quarterback felt I have issues to my right. Back, you're going to go away. You're blocking the left C gap, and the line is going to slide, or excuse me, gap. All right, but just terms for the line: a sift, a half line gap, and a full line gap. Here's an example of what I mean when I say a tackle sift. All right, and we'll see this better from the end zone. Okay, so right now Pittsburgh's in a 5-man protection. Even though the back's in the backfield, he's a free releaser. So this is a 5-man protection. The tight end's out in the protection. We've got 4 down with 91 and 78, the 2A gap players. We've got the defensive end 98 to the left of the screen, and they've counted 54 or 59, whatever jersey that is, to the right as down. 37 and 23 are backer types. They've tagged 37. So the center is going to slide to 37 along with the guard and tackle, so they're going to handle those 3. The left guard in this picture has got 91 over top of him, and now it's the left tackle who's got the sift between the defensive end and now -1, which is 23. He makes the decision to block the most dangerous, which is 23, and now the further guy comes free. They only got 5 blocking. New England's rushing 6, so they're compromised anyway, but the tackle is blocking the most dangerous or sifting over here to the right. So there's a good example of what a sift looks like. Okay, here's going to be an example.
Oh, sorry. Go before you go.
Yep.
With that block. So basically, you're not teaching him to take inside away right now to tackle, or he just got the most dangerous for his demeanor.
Yeah, he's gonna try to set back vertically and then block. He's got to read who's coming. So if that Sam backer dropped and the end rushed, he would then be in better position to block the end. When you say, is he trying to get inside leverage on the +1, it kind of depends on where it hits.
No, not inside leverage, man. I said the wrong thing. Just take the inside guy.
Correct. I'm sorry. Yeah, which in most cases we would consider the most dangerous guy, right? If 2 guys are on the line of scrimmage, the inside of the 2 can get to the quarterback quicker, so he becomes the most dangerous guy. The question becomes at times when, so here's and I had a picture of it, but I took it off this clinic. But here's what you're asking, I think, too. Now it's the defensive end and the Sam, but the Sam is off the ball and he's inside. and the Sam hits it at the snap from off the ball. Now, as the tackle sets, he's got to make a decision. The Sam's coming inside, but he's off the ball. The defensive end's on this line of scrimmage outside. Who is the most dangerous of those two? And it kind of depends. You'll see sometimes a tackle will stay with the end, the quarterback's hot off the Sam, and sometimes you'll see that tackle squeeze in on the Sam, and the quarterback's got to throw the ball off the defensive end. So this particular look, so you guys understand what we did in protection. Our turnout protection, our half sprint, we blocked with man principles, okay, in Detroit. So we didn't just zone gaps, play side on this half roll. We actually blocked men. So the back is responsible for the linebacker mugging up in the B gap. Okay, the center is going backside. We had a rule, if the linebacker in this protection gets into the heels of the defensive line, that we're going to gap this protection. So that's what you're seeing here on the run. You're seeing 70 signal back to the back by tapping his inside hip that I think that linebacker is far enough inside where I'm going to gap. And now it's changing the responsibility from the back on that linebacker to the defensive end outside. Okay, so that's what you're seeing here on this particular look. So this is a gap call on this half roll protection based on how we blocked it in Detroit. Not everybody blocks it this way, but this is how we blocked it. So you can see Matt Stafford is pointing left to 44. He tagged it left. It leaves the back on 59. Heels of the lineman, we get the gap, we exchange responsibilities, and we get a good playoff. And then from your quarterback standpoint, he's got to have ways to protect himself. The defense is called a better play, or the disguise was better, or the disguise wasn't good enough, and he got something from the look. But the ability just to change the tag, making either a righty or a lefty call, that's what we did. So he initially identified number 44 as the tag, where we're setting the protection to, and then something made him say, oh, I don't want it to be 44 still. I want to move it to the next guy to the right or the next guy to the left. And he would just make a righty, 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 or a lefty, lefty, lefty. That moved the tag. And then that ultimately moved the -1 and the +1, or created a new Sam and a new Will, if you want to use those terms.
Now,
The
Coach,
Yep.
real quick on that
Yes,
one.
sir.
You guys did that. You stayed with whatever principal call it was, if it was a man or a slide. It just flipped.
Yes.
Okay.
So the scheme of the protection didn't change.
Okay.
The identification changed.
Okay.
So we've got the ability for the quarterback to re-identify the defense. We've got the ability to opposite the protection if we had a sort and or a slide on, and he thought, hey, we've got a protection where we're sliding the protection and the back has Mike Sam. Okay. And I think I'm getting Mike Sam and I don't want to throw the ball hot. I can go opposite, as opposed to the line sliding to the Will. Now they'll go slide to the Sam. The back still keeps his rules. I'm tagged to +1, and now we can pick up that blitz. So strong dog from the field, let's just say. If we're 3-by-1 and we've got 2 jet protection on, and the back's got Mike Sam and the line sliding to Will. Well, Mike Sam compromises that protection. We have to throw hot. If the quarterback doesn't feel like he wants to throw hot, he would just go opposite. Now the slide would go out to the Sam. The back would check Mike Will now. And now when Mike Sam came, the line would slide, handle Sam. The back would step and handle Mike, and it's picked up. So it's just a tool for the quarterback. When we have a sort protection or a slide protection, and we've got the slide or sort going in the wrong direction, he can fix it. Okay. The 5 down or 5-0 or poker calls, those were all calls, all different ways for us to say, hey, the 5 defenders covering the offensive lineman are all the down guys plus the tag. Okay, so I'm not going to call a tag out, a jersey number tag. The guys that are covering the center, the 2 guards and the tackles, are the 5 down, are down and tag. So all I'm going to say is 5 down, and that's was our language to say that. And then we had the ability and turn it into a sort protection. And so the quarterback call for us, Ray or Lee, was an eraser. So if we had a Mike scheme on, it turned into a sort based on the quarterback giving a Ray or Lee call. That was his, and it turned the back into an automatic search. So we put the back in a dual read, because he's searching one outside linebacker to the other outside linebacker. And we put the line in a dual read because now they were going to sort to the Mike and the direction side outside linebacker. So we had both the back and the line dual reading, which allows you to pick up everything, just about everything except all out. And so once again, this was a safety blanket for the quarterback when he knew he was getting something, wasn't quite sure where it was coming from, and he had on a protection that he felt was compromised. His go-to could be just make a Ray or a Lee call, and that's going to block 90% of the shit someone can bring at you, and we go from there. So just some answers for our quarterback to get himself protected better. All right. So here's an example of the righty-lefty call. Okay, I'm going to change the point, okay, based on what I see. Okay, so he froze cadence. All right. And now he just made the tag changed from the middle linebacker, and he put the tag out to the apex linebacker. For whatever reason, he wanted that to be the tag. So now the back is going to go Mike to Sam to the left because the line sliding out to the walkout. And the thought process versus the quarterback on some of this stuff is, I want to try to get my back out in certain pressures. I don't want to have him staying in. If I can see a pressure, know what I'm getting, I can try to get my back out versus certain pressure. So this is just an example of that based on what we had called the quarterback using his toolbox to get the back out.
Like that.
Okay, so you can use one from 59. He righted it to 50. The line sliding out. The back still is going to do his work. Everything just moved the defender. And once again, the quarterback has his reasons for doing things. Okay, so you can see quarterback making the same thing. So here's the quarterback thought process here. He tagged the outside linebacker this time because he saw this blitz. So he knows if I don't tag the outside linebacker, I'm leaving my back on the will and the free safety, and I'm going to be in trouble, or I have to throw my sight to the X. So I can tag the will, and now the back will check the free safety versus this blitz, and I'm protected. Now, the quarterback's great in what he does. The tailback stumbles over the guard and ends up in bad position and holds the free safety. But schematically, we have this dialed up the way we want to have it dialed up. Okay, so he took 59. I'm going to go through all this for you. Okay, since we're watching it, so you understand what he's doing. All right. So he has tagged 59 initially, then he redeclares it lefty-lefty. The other thing he does, you're going to see he's going to put his hand up and he's going to wave. And what he's doing is he's waving to the receiver out here. We had rules where the receiver knew, and we'll see it here in a second. If the safety blitzes, that's our sight back here. And if the safety blitzes, I'm going to change my route to a fade if I'm pressed, or a hitch if it's off. When the quarterback says, I just protected this for you, I fixed my problem, you go about your business and run your route, even if that safety blitzes. So this is the mechanics you're seeing. You're going to see Stafford wave out to the left. He's talking to the X. I got this picked up. We're in good shape. Let's go. And schematically, we have it. We just, we foul at the back in terms of his technique, and we get a holding. Okay. This is, we're doing this from day one as back coaches. We have an assignment. We're going to block our assignment, but he crosses, the line's assignment crosses our face. So the line ends up taking ours, we take theirs. Same thing when you get the pick stunts working. When I say a pick stunt, you've got someone you're assigned to in the rush who's not rushing the quarterback. His sole intent is to pick one of the linemen. So they're running basically a linebacker end game. And so the ability for the back to understand it, see it, and then really be in a bump with the tackle and pick up the penetrator. So that's what you're watching here. Okay, so 54 is blitzing, and the sole purpose of his blitz is to knock the lineman off. So the back recognizes it. It's not a rush at the quarterback. It's a pick rush I'm going to let him pick, and then I'm going to get inside and handle the looper, the penetrator, the looper. I said it right the first time. And hopefully the tackle doesn't get turned to the sideline, and then he can slide back in and handle the penetrator. But really good job by the back, understanding what he's getting there and picking it up. Okay, similar, same team, similar scheme in terms of, same thing over here to the left. What they're trying to do with Kendricks is he's running a blitz 54, and he has no intent to get to the quarterback. His sole purpose is to pick the tackle so the defensive end can come free. Okay, and then once again, another version of a cross dog where the line take our backer, then we have to accept their backer in the protection. So kind of, what I term pizza theory with guys picking up certain guys. Exact same thing on a cross dog again. So this is kind of standard operating procedures. This, when it becomes the pick game with the line, that's a little bit more challenging, like they're trying to do there. All right. This is a slide I think that can shed light to things for you a little bit better in terms of, the number of blockers that we tie into a protection are going to determine the hots and sights, when the quarterback is unprotected. So hots are quarterback throws off unblocked backer types. Sights are quarterback throws off unblocked safety types. We usually are sighting into the boundary off the safety and or corner, and the hots based on which way you're sending your back could be both field and boundary. But a general rule is a hot is off a backer type, a sight is off a DB type. And then based on the protections, how many men you got in the protections. If you got just a 5-man protection, well, you're going to have, depending on what you're doing with it, whether it's a man scheme or slide scheme or sort scheme, you've got hots somewhere and you've got a sight backside somewhere. If you've got a 6-man protection, it's the same thought process. There's hots and sights in 6-man protections. Now, if you've got a 7-man protection, there should be no hots. You should have the ability to pick up Will, Mike, and Sam, and then the only problems become off the boundary safety or boundary corner. And then if you're in an 8-man protection, the quarterback should be protected. So that's just a little thought process for you. 5- and 6-man protections, there's issues to those protections. You may not get the defense in your league to always present the problems, but you need to understand there are problems and understand what are the potential solutions for those problems. 7-man protections, once again, linebackers should all be accounted for. And now how do we handle the 8th defender? All right. And then this bottom note, the quarterback can be hot off 1 blitzer or hot off 2 blitzers based on your scheme. Okay, so if we're in a Mike scheme or a man scheme, 6-man protection man scheme where the line's got the Mike, the back has the Will, the quarterback has the Sam, then it only takes 1 to make him hot. If we happen to be in a slide scheme where the line was sliding to the Will and the back had the dual read Mike or Sam, then it would have to take 2 to make him hot. So same number of men in the protection, quarterback could be hot off different things based on what scheme you're using. Okay, which once again is important. So here's some examples of the quarterback hot. So this is a scan protection with the back. He is not going across the field and blocking the opposite outside linebacker. He's just staying on his side. So as you can see, the quarterback's hot off both the Mike and +1. They both come. The wide receiver ran the hot adjustment, and we got a decent play. Same thing here. Okay. They're bringing both Mike and Sam, and we've got a protection on where the linemen are just going to work the Mike and the quarterback has the Sam. So when they both come, then the quarterback's hot. He has to deliver the football. If he didn't want to throw hot, then he's got to use one of his tools to adjust the protection. Okay, so here's a sight with the single receiver up top. So here's the free safety running. And now the route goes to a fade off the free safety because we can't block the free safety here. We're sorting to the right. So the line's working to the tag out. The back has the -1. We get both -1 and -2 to blitz. And now we don't have an answer. Well, we do have an answer. It's not a great answer, but it's an answer. We're going to throw a sight. And on that particular play, the defense won. All right. So now let's just get into the scheme, right? Whether it's 6 men, whether it's 5 men, whether it's 7 men, but just from a scheme standpoint, we can be in a mic scheme protection where the lineman, the center and guard are going to handle the mic. The back is going to scan and going to go 1 minus the tag, stay on his side, and the quarterback handles +1 the tag. You can see the call side tackle with the sift mentality, as he's going to set the defensive end with eyes on the Sam and block the most dangerous of those 2. Okay, so this is a 6-man mic scheme, back scan, quarterback hat off 1 protection. Okay. Here's a same mic or man scheme where the linemen are doing the exact same thing. They've got the 4 down in the mic, but now we've added a search for the back. So now the back would be responsible on the left diagram for the -1. So we're tagging the mic. The -1 is the nickel will. It's an auto scan. So I look to the free safety as well. And then I've got a search across to +1, which is Sam. And then if the strong safety came and the Sam didn't come, then the back would handle that. So this is an example now of a search protection. We've put the back on a search. We still have the line in their man scheme, but we've added a tag for the back and made this protection a little bit better for the quarterback. Why is it better for the quarterback? In the first protection we looked at, if just the Sam backer blitzed, the protection is compromised and the quarterback is throwing hot. If we've got the back on a search and just the Sam blitzes, this blitz would be picked up. So having the back on a dual read, will to Sam or -1 to +1, whatever term you want to use, makes this protection a little bit more sound than having it just back, you stay on your side, quarterback, you deal with the single blitzer. You've got a chance to pick that blitz up here. So we can search the back, Jared. That would be another reason to have the back search. Now, what's the coast and when does the coast come into play? Usually, one of the ways it comes into play is when you've got a 7-man protection. And we've assigned, once again, we're in a mic scheme. It's a 7-man mic scheme. The center and guard are still responsible for the mic. We've got the back still responsible for the -1 or the will. And now we've got the area scheme working with the tight end who's in the protection. And between the tackle and the tight end on the closed side, they'll handle end and Sam. So we have accounted for 7 people with the protection. And let's really look at the diagram to the right for my example. Let's say the strong safety was inverting down to the right and the free safety was going to the post. I know the diagram has it the other way. But if that strong safety were to blitz off the right side in this diagram to the right, and the will was not blitzing, then the back would go back and he would coast to the strong safety who was -2. So we're tagging the mic. -1 is the Sam on the line of scrimmage. -2 would be the backside safety or backside corner. So if the will doesn't come, you're checking -1, but you're coasting to the other side. If the will came and the strong safety came on the backside, then the quarterback would be throwing the sight to the Z receiver off the strong safety. So the system has answers for everybody. The protections have answers if you decide to use them. If you don't use them, then that's fine. But I'm just building the protection sequence of how you can handle protecting your quarterback. Okay, then we can get into slide protections. Okay, now we're going to slide the protection, and now the line doesn't have the mic, they have the -1. So in the left diagram, we're still tagging the mic, but in this type of protection, a slide, the back has the tag in +1, and the line is sliding to -1. Now, that's one look at it. And then you can look at the 3x1 picture. Here's excuse me, here we go with the line sliding to, in this case, the jack is that backside inside linebacker in this particular diagram. The back handles the mic Sam, but let's just say for argument's sake, this was a too high look. And let's say that they had boundary corner blitz on. Okay, the back has Mike Sam, but this would be to me a coast protection where he goes backside, and if just a corner blitz, he'd handle that too. Because the line, once again, if it's sliding, they're stopping. They're stopping on the -1. So whoever we tag the -1 to, that's where the slide stops. So if a defender comes outside that slide, then you're either throwing sight, the back is coasting, or the defense is going to hit your quarterback. It's one of those three things. It's just picking up what you want to be able to do. Here's a sort scheme now, a protection where you've got a sort scheme where the back is just going to scan. So the back is staying on his side. He's going to handle Will free safety corner. The line is now going to make a line call for a Lee, different in our terms, was different from the quarterback making a Lee call. So we had Ray Lee line call, just meant they were 3 for 4 slide. Quarterback call meant I'm changing the protection. But here's a sort where the line is going to handle the Mike and +1. The communication that we would give would be the center and guard got their eyes on the tag. If the tag drops, then we're going to get an out call. And that out call is telling the tackle, if the defensive end comes inside you, you bypass and you look for that nickel Sam. Nickel Sam's not coming, then you squeeze back in. If the tackle got an in call, that meant that Mike backer blitzed. So as you slide or as you kick tackle, you have to stop at the defensive end because the Mike has blitzed. The guard will probably handle the Mike depending on where he hits. The center's on the nose and tackle. You can't bypass the end now. You've got to stop on the end. So we had a verbal communication in this sort protection, which helped the tackle understand how far am I kicking, because he sometimes couldn't see the tag based on formation. All right, so that was communication that was involved.
Okay, coach, so real quick. So basically both sides really got a sort then.
No, because on the backside, it's a man scheme. It's
Right,
big on big on the backside.
Yes, man. But I'm
Yep.
talking about if that nickel, so we go coast to coast on that nickel Sam, right? If we're going in the left,
It just depends on what rule have you given the back. If it's a protection, and it's going to be the next slide we get to, but let's just go on this slide first.
okay.
If the rule for the back was just he's scanning and the line sorting, then it becomes a take too hot for the quarterback.
Mhm.
Because if just Mike backer blitzed, we can pick it up. If just nickel Sam blitzes, we can pick it up. We can't pick up both Mike and nickel Sam if we have the back scanning and he's not going across the formation.
Correct.
So now this particular scheme we're looking at would just be a take too hot for the quarterback. It takes the tag and +1 to force me to be hot.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, the next picture is, I think where you were going, is now we can have a scheme where we have both the line and the back dual reading linebackers. So we can search and just real quick too, these pictures that I'm pulling are from different teams, use different terminology. So, you know, the rock at the bottom was this team's version of the Ray call we just saw on the other slide. Okay, so we had rock and load on this team I was on. Other team we were Ray Lee, but it was just the right and left term for a sort. But Eric, here you go here where the left diagram, the back's thinking I've got Will to nickel Sam. The line's thinking we're going to sort Mike to nickel Sam. So any version of Will by himself, we're picked up. Any version of Mike by himself, we're picked up. Any version of nickel Sam by himself, we're picked up. And then you keep going with the blitzes. Any version of Will Mike, it's picked up. Any version of Mike Sam is picked up. Any version of Will Sam is picked up, because we're going to search and sort. And that allows us, in my opinion, the best protection for picking up stuff. So the diagram to your right, I think, is what you might have just been talking about. Would the back go across? If we had a search protection and they brought strong dog, we should block the hell out of that blitz.
Yeah,
Does that clarify it a little bit for you?
No, that's it. I just wanted to know that y'all had a rules in, but that's it. That's perfect.
Yep. Okay, great. And so this outline to me is I hope it will be really helpful for you guys. So as you look, the first column there, the number of blockers in the protection. So I didn't do any 8-man protections here, but I just put the 5-man protections and the different schemes. So you could have a Mike 5-man scheme, you could have a sort 5-man scheme, you could have a slide 5-man scheme, and you could have a gap 5-man scheme. And the back rule on all those 5-man schemes would be he's releasing into the route. And then the quarterback issue would be if we've got a Mike scheme and protection and the linemen are going to handle the 4 down in the Mike or the tag, then the quarterback technically has a problem with the -1 and the +1. So he ends up being hot on both sides of the formation. If just the Will came, he's hot. And if just the Sam came, he's hot. And by scheme, you might already have a quick game throw in and the hot doesn't matter. But that's just, I'm trying to just share the issue with you. So a 5-man Mike scheme, the issue is you're hot on both sides. Okay, if you've got a 5-man sort scheme, then you're hot 1 to the backside. So if you're sorting to the Mike and Sam and they bring Will, the quarterback's hot. So you're hot weak off 1, but the front side hot is off 2 people. They've got to bring both the tag and the +1 to make you hot front side. So the quarterback learns in this scheme, 5-man sort, I got I'm hot off 1 backside, I'm hot off 2 front side. Okay, if we want to slide the protection and now have the lineman slide to the Will and leave the quarterback the Mike and the tag, the Mike and the +1, then the quarterback doesn't have to worry about being hot on both sides because we're going to slide to my backside, handle the Will, and now I just got to worry about the Mike in the box and the Sam backer, nickel Sam, wherever he is. So I'm hot off 1, either the tag or the +1, but I'm hot only one side. So you may ask, why would you want the different protections? What are the purpose for the different protections? A lot of it depends on your route concept and your quarterback. Some guys just want to be hot front side. I don't want to have to deal with stuff on my backside. So I'm going to protect my backside and I'm going to just handle the front side stuff. Or based on the route concept, I don't mind being hot on the backside because that's my initial read and we've got a short concept and I'm throwing the ball and the ball's out. Okay. And then we can have a gap protection. And now if we've got a gap protection and it's a 5-man gap, the quarterback is just hot off the backside C or D gap defender. So if we're going to everybody gap to the right, then I know my problem is the first defender outside the left tackle if we choose to do this. All right, so 5-man schemes and the quarterback issues. Okay, go to the 6-man schemes now. So now we've got the back involved in the protection on all these. Okay, and we can have the back on a scan on all these. Okay, so if we've got a Mike scheme, once again, the quarterback's hot off 1, and that hot off 1 is the +1. If we're sorting the protection, then it's a hot off 2. If we're sliding the protection for the quarterback, it's a hot off 2. And then once again, if it's a gap scheme, it's any defender outside the back's block, forces him to have an issue. Go over to the right side now where you see the back rule to the right, and you see now if we have a search in the scheme. So we're still in a 6-man Mike scheme, but now we're going to search the protection. Now that forces us to be hot off 2, -1 and +1. So for the quarterback, if we're not searching the back, then you have more problems. If we've got a sort scheme and we're searching the back, then we're hot off cover 0, where it's a middle of the field empty, basically hot, which you don't see as much, which is why it's a better protection on 3rd down in terms of picking up things. Now, they can come up with blitzes that can get you. It doesn't always have to be 0, but that's a general rule. And then if you have the back coasting, once again, you're potentially hot off of 2. And then you've got your 7-man protection schemes. Okay. Usually the backs are in a scan on a 7-man scheme because we don't have to search because we've got the other outside linebacker accounted for. And then now the quarterback's just thinking sight, okay, on a 7-man scheme. And if the back is coasting, then we really shouldn't have many issues at all. So this protection outline is just to give you an idea of what problems arise in certain protections based on, once again, think of protections. You have your Lyman rule, whatever that Lyman rule they have for a particular protection. Then we're going to have a back rule for a protection. Are we keeping him on his side? Are we going to take him across the ball and to look for the outside linebacker? Are we going to take him across the ball to look for an outside or for a DB? So whatever that rule is, and then you have to build in the problems for the quarterback. What's going to force a problem? So any questions as you look at this outline, guys, or comments? And then it's just knowing certain pressures and what the pain points are for the pressure. You know, and hopefully from your guys' standpoint, you get to the point where you can look at a pressure, know what protection you're in based on its rules and its flexibility, and to know if our protection handles this problem or not. And if they do, super, you're in great shape. The ones that don't, then there's times that you add another rule to your protections so you can handle certain things. Okay. And then some base blitzes that you can see, and being able to pick up a single safety, strong or weak, a 4-man pressure, strong or weak, with the outside linebacker and or the safety involved in it, whether it hits inside or outside. And then once again, I could have put 1,000 other looks on here, but this to me is just makes it a little bit easier for you, not trying to overwhelm you too much.
I got a question, probably out to everyone. We run a lot of power back, kind of, we call it power back, but it's a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have some free releasing with our backs. Do you guys do you have a different protection call when you want to lead the power back in to swap that responsibility with the running back?
Yeah. Yes. So we could call, for example, for what you're talking about, let's say we wanted to be just in a 6-man scan protection. So we could, in our terms, we would use Richmond or Lexington, an R direction term and an L direction term. And all that meant, it just told the quarterback where his problem was. But if we wanted to incorporate the super back in the protection and free release the back, we would have called, for example, Y Richmond or Y Lexington. And now that just said, hey, the Y is taking the protection back. You've got the free release now.
Okay. So you just tag it.
That's how I'm used to doing it. I don't know what everybody else has experienced.
Okay. Because we don't do it. We'll put them on the line of scrimmage a lot, but we don't do it a lot.
Uh-huh.
You know,
And then the other thing I think you got to think of, Leighton, is, do you want them to be blocking the back's responsibility? Meaning, does that guy have the same rules as the back in terms of linebackers? And then there's obviously times where that guy could be responsible for blocking a defensive end, which you're probably not doing much with your back. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
We wanted to keep it kind of simple.
Yep.
But he was going to end up having the same responsibility like the back.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, we tagged it that way, was our system. And we didn't give because that guy didn't practice, you know, he didn't see it a lot. We didn't teach that guy to scan.
Okay.
Like we would say, you are responsible for -1. And if that guy doesn't come, then get out. We didn't teach him, you've got -1, but then you've got to see the free safety in the corner. We never taught that triangle to the tight end. You know, whether we should have or shouldn't have, we could debate, but we just said, let's make his job easy. Like you're saying, the quarterback is going to point to one guy and you've got the next guy.
Yeah, you got that opposite guy inside. And I even make it even simpler. That I go, when he points, we tag that one side, which is, you know, we'll call our protection to that man side.
Yep.
You have the man side, and then play side back to anything outside rush. So you play inside out. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Go.
Quick question, Coach. Basically, when teams get up in that radar defense where they moving all around, everybody walking around, do y'all just zone that off, or how do y'all pick that up? But do y'all go by the man or numbers?
Yep.
people?
Yep. We're going to match numbers. So
Okay.
we would hopefully know by study what. Now, here's the thing that's much easier in the NFL than it is in college. Okay. The linebacker jersey numbers are 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they can't wear other numbers. So,
Yeah.
but we would have put down, okay, we're treating, let's say there's 2 down linemen and then, DBs and linebackers. We would have by game plan said number 38 is being treated as a down. Number 44 is being treated as a down this week. And so that would be able to set, okay, those guys walking around are responsible for the line, and then we would make a tag, and then we would go off the point from there. But we tried to make sure we could identify some of the radar people that were down that the back wasn't responsible for, and the tag, and then depending on the protection, the back could or could not be responsible for, and then those other floaters we had to account for. But we didn't want to have I worked with one line, and I believe this though too. After being exposed to it enough, where you say you kind of just zone stuff off, and then there's some funky looks where I thought he had him, I thought you had him, where we didn't have a rule tied into who picked up someone, and there was a problem. So I feel much better when we can assign people to people based on rules and based on, I don't like just saying, we'll kind of just zone that shit off, and whoever, if we've got a scheme, let's find a way to block our scheme. And that's why, okay, so I'm going to go back to this. You guys watched that one clip versus Chicago where we kind of ran the little half roll protection, little half sprint out. We threw the quick arrow for the touchdown. And I said, hey, we're going to gap this, that, and the other. Some people will take that protection and just block C gap with the tackle, B gap with the guard, and the back over blocks the end. And we started getting the conversations of, okay, what happens when one of those inside linebackers is a second contained guy? Who's got him? And when that guy's hitting the quarterback, whose guy is that? You know what I mean? And so that's why we ended up ruling that protection where we kept it man-based. We're going to tag someone, back you've got the -1, and then we can have an adjustment. But if I've got -1 and he drops, and I'm going to overblock the end, if my -1 comes outside, comes inside, he's still my guy. And if the guard were to take him by accident, then I'm going to fold back and waterfall and look for the guard's guy. But it, just had too many problems with certain schemes. Like, I'm not a big gap guy. I'm not a, some people run it and they love it. I'm not real big in terms of just gap protection. And everybody has a gap, and then guys from the inside come around and start making plays. I'm just trying to help you guys be educated on understanding the schemes. What are the pain points in those schemes? And then based on what we're doing in our offense, is there something that we could add based on a problem that we're seeing? If your protections, you feel your protections handle everything, then you're good. Or when you go back and you watch your pass under pressure tape, like just go through your tape of all the pressures that you guys got and go through the ones that compromised your protection. And then how do you fix that protection? That's how you build some of these rules out, because you got compromised and you needed to have an answer. Oh, okay, if they bring this, we need an answer. Oh, okay, well, one of the answers could be we can have the quarterback make a Ray Lee call, and that becomes an erasure for us, and we'll duel the line and duel the back. We had to develop that based on some of the stuff we were seeing from people. It wasn't like day one install, hey, here's Ray Lee call versus this issue. It was, oh shit, they got us. Okay, how do we come up with an answer to this when we see it again?
Oh, the question, you said with the turn protection kind of roll out,
Yep.
You guys do it man. What are the steps for your offensive line? Are they taking that step and then turning?
Yeah, it would be almost, okay, let's use it this way. Their protection responsibility is in their outside gap. Okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
Then it would almost be almost like an outside zone run. similar to that thought process,
Like what you said.
where it could be lose ground with your first step, bucket, try to overtake and cover up the defender. Now, if you tell me we're even though it's a turnout protection, but we've ruled it up where it's a man scheme, and now like I'm the guard and I don't have a 3 technique. I'm the guard and I got a G. Now I don't need the zone right. I'm in position, I've already got leverage, and I'm gonna really almost hard set that guy. So if you rule it that way, then the techniques depend on where the guy is you're trying to block. If you rule it as just, hey, we're all just blocking gaps, then everybody's going to full zone, lose ground slightly to try to cover up their defender. So now, because this here's another problem with that. Okay, so just as we're talking about what's a potential problem, let's say it's the true, we're blocking, we're half sprint, and we're all going to block our play side gap. Okay, and now there's a heavy G on the guard, and the guard goes to block the B gap where there's nobody there, and that heavy G beats the center. Like that's a potential problem. And if that G is up the field and the center can't leverage him and the quarterback gets held up, then you may think about wanting to do it a different way. So we ended up man blocking it for problems like that arose. You know.
Yeah, our coach, we want to do sprint. We like to sprint. Our quarterback is a little shorter, better on movement at times, but we get caught up in this. He doesn't like, honestly, he just doesn't like the double read the lineman.
Right.
And I'm like, so you want to put that responsibility on the back all the time. But now here comes that secondary contain guy, which is a better athlete than the first guy that came inside. If you double read yours inside, they drop one out, you pick up the next one. Now I can get the secondary contain guy. Now our quarterback's protected.
Right.
And
yeah, there's an argument to do it that way. You know what I mean? And ultimately it's going to be what your either head coach and or coordinator is comfortable with. And we all know there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to be right in football. If you guys feel the way you're doing it, you don't have problems, or as long as you know what the problems are and you can make an adjustment, then go on. If the problem becomes, to me as coaches, when a defense presents us problems and we don't fix it, that's shame on us.
And this one is shame on us because it's something that consistently a team can see that we do when we turn and sprint. We can leave 1, 2. Definitely if that backer comes from he sees that we sprint, he instead of coming in that inside because he knows we're not zoning and he cross face
right
a little distance, they can come in through either the A or the B gap because those guys are zoned up. These 2 guys are manned up. Here we got a free guy.
Right.
So now you're not double reading that. So my thing is, it's something that we need to fix. But I love what you just said. You can turn, and we can still be in man protection in that aspect.
Yeah.
Definitely, if they came from your side. Yeah. And sift it out. I like that. And he's a rule type guy. He's an older kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So he's all about his rules and things that fit into a rule. And I just got something that's going to fit right into a sifting rule. So you sift that out. That's still your man side. Take care of that. Don't let it come over here and cross our face.
Right. And the other thing I think that's important in terms of whatever terminology, right? Whatever terminology your offense uses, that terminology doesn't cross over into other areas. So what I mean by that is, I'll just use the scan term for argument's sake. Like a scan is only a back term and it tells him A to B. A sift is a lineman term and that's telling him whatever. Be careful trying to have a term that may be related to the back also fit a term maybe that the quarterback and or line uses, because then sometimes there's not clarity when you're having the discussion, or I thought I heard this. That wasn't meant for me. That was meant for those guys. Like, just be careful with understanding your terms, what they mean, and then how you'll use them is important. I think is important.
Yeah. Okay. But that's good for me to hear because he keeps saying he likes to turn, and then if we full slide as the same as zone, and I said you can turn in man the same way we do it if we base it up. But I like what you said with the sifting because he uses that term sift, but when he goes to slide in with zone, he's like, no, we're just gonna let it work out. I said, well, if we turn, you should be able to sift that one too. But now I can see, I got the argument. Because last year, our starting quarterback goes out in week seven, because here comes secondary contain guy, blows him up as he gets out there. Back picks up his, tight end releases it quick. He gets the ball out, but now he's end up on his back. And I'm like, we don't want this guy to take hits.
Right.
Let's protect it. Right.
Right.
We can have two guys on the backside not blocking nobody.
Right. And that's part of hopefully us having education and having answers and solutions and trying to present those. Because like I said, I think for us as coaches, we've got to have answers for defensive generated problems. Yeah. And if we don't, then the defense is going to continue to generate those same problems. Everybody watches everybody's film. If we can't pick up a blitz, we're probably going to see it until we fix it. And that's with any concept or scheme. And we would attack a defense the same way. If we saw them do something and it's not sound, well, let's try it and see if they fixed it. If they haven't fixed it, let us gain the advantage as well. So, and once again, just depending on what your scheme, we went over a ton of protections, but really I wanted you guys to just get the scheme portion of it. Is the line blocking one linebacker? Whether we tell them it's a man scheme and they've got the mic, or it's a slide scheme and they've got the will. Okay. And then what are we doing? Okay. Do we have the ability to have our protections where the line is blocking two linebackers and use a sort term where they're going to work tag to +1 now? Okay. So who do you want to put the stress on in the protection? Like every protection's stressed different ways. Either the linemen are stressed because we're asking them to block two guys, linebackers. Either the back stressed because we're asking him to block two linebackers, or we're asking the quarterback to be stressed based on is he hot off one or hot off two. So whatever rules you put, there's pain points for every position. And now it's coming up with what is our protection? What are the pain points for this protection? And now us all knowing what the pain points are. If we're in two jet protection and they bring Mike free safety, that's a problem. Because the line's stopping at the will and the free safety is going to be free because the back's not going back because the Mike comes. So Mike free safety is a problem in two jet. Okay, good. We got it noted. Just free safety, no issues. Just Mike, no issues. Mike Sam, if we're slide, issue. Back can't block both. So here's another way to think about it, Leighton. Anytime we've got two to the back, that's an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there are two rushers on the back, that's a problem. Quarterback, if you can identify it, re-identify the front. Oh shit, I think they're bringing two to the back to the left. I made a call, lefty, lefty, lefty. Now it's protected. I think they're bringing two to the back. Opposite, opposite, opposite. Yeah. You protected it. So the quarterback has tools to fix defensive generated problems. Our rules are in place to try to help fix defensive generated problems. My call as a play caller, if I have one protection where we're scanning the back, I have the same protection, but I can search the back. I can get to a different protection to help fix a problem. You know, those are to me how you use your system in protections. And the quarterback position has to understand how to protect himself based on the scheme. If that guy doesn't know how to protect himself, it doesn't matter what protections you go unless you stay in a 7-man or an 8-man protection, don't get anybody out. Now, I mean, you can do that. You can play that game and release 3 and 4. But if you want to release people out, the quarterback has to be in tune to what's the problem here.
Hey, Coach, quick question. Do you, I don't know, we ran this at K-State, Molly protection. Do y'all do that in NFL as well?
Yeah, Molly the guard versus an uncovered versus the odd looks,
Yeah,
basically.
verse only odds, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, yes, to answer your question, that would be part of you're still in. So let's say we're in our 6-man scan, right? Mike scheme, and it's verse odd. So now the call side guard is dueling the Mike to the Sam
Mhm.
on the line. The tackle is going to stay on the end, and you work a vertical set, eyes out to the on the line of scrimmage guy first. If he comes, you kick out. If he doesn't drop, if he drops, then you can keep your eyes inside. And here's the problem with that protection. Like, okay, so here's the problem. You're the guard and you've got a molly the Mike off the ball in the Sam. Okay, and that Sam is like fucking James Harrison. Okay, and now they take the Mike and they walk the Mike up right over top of your head, and he stunts like he's coming at to snap the ball. So your eyes are going to start here, stay here, and then he drops, and now you got to try to kick to that guy. Good luck. But yes, they do that still in the NFL, have the molly versus the guard uncovered. Let me ask you this, Eric, what is your main third down drop back protection? What scheme are you guys in?
We're mostly 6-man protection, third down, you know, unless we getting like, if a team is a big Sonic Blitz team, which is the strong safety in the Sam,
Yep.
and we would go 7-man protection, but mostly we're 6-man protection.
But within your 6-man protection, are you guys sorting? Meaning, is your line working tag to +1, or is your line just staying on the tag? Like, how are you? What's your base deal? Like,
Basically, our line is staying on the tag, and then the back has a dual read. We have a dual read to basically front side to 4-week coming back side. That's
okay.
The same thing
Yep.
I think Cornell was talking about. But
Yep.
but sometimes we do that too. It depends on whether he walks up. If he walks up, and then if the backer is at depth, then you know, basically the line make a out call, so now the guard and tackle go out, and now our responsibility go through
goes
the Mike.
back inside. Yep. And so for the scheme that you're talking about, Mike, a Mike scheme with a search. That's how I would term it for this meeting.
Okay.
Okay. The blitz that's going to give you guys problems is Saw blitz, Sam Will, right?
Yes.
And as long as we know it, but I mean, that's where the problems are, and then you know how to handle the problems.
Right, and that's pretty much the one that gives us problems. And I think, you know, like I say, basically we leave that on the quarterback, and he normally gets it out or he runs. So, you know, we got to run the quarterback so he can run.
Right. And that's your answer, and it fits for you
Yeah.
guys. But I'm just sharing thoughts. Like, you guys know when you're game planning Virginia Tech and they have Saw blitz, that they can compromise your protection on third down with this blitz, with this call.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yep.
Pepe, what have you guys been in? What protections have you used the most? What were you guys doing at Marshall on like a third down type of call?
We would be in the 6-man protection as well, but not in our 6-man where I have coached the dual read front side to 4. We weren't as much as the dual read. So we would get our protection based off a game plan. We would try to slide our line to where, let's just say we're in a trips right formation and we're on the left hash, and they were a big corner blitz team. What we would do is we would try to game plan a lot of times to where the back could stay front side. So we would align the back on to the strength or to the right, and then we would try to slide the line into that cat blitz. So a lot of times in the offense that I was in, we would kind of game plan it to, okay, this week they cat blitz a lot, so we're going to slide the line to the left. The back should be able to handle the field because they weren't a big field blitz team or whatever. So, but in past, you know, we ran what we call key protection, and that was a dual read, front side to back side protection. So I've done it both ways, but you're exactly right. All of these different things, you want to make sure you have answers based off of the offense that you're running.
Right. Kevin, how about you guys? What have you guys done?
So a lot of 6-man scan. And then we mess around with a little bit of search stuff just to kind of keep defenses honest, bring them back across just for alignment purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And still be in the mic world where the line was going to the tag or the mic. And
Yeah,
then the quarterback was hot or built in off +1.
always built in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. So, yeah, because that becomes, when I say always built in, let me be careful how I say this. Doesn't become a problem, but let's just say you wanted to run 4 verts for argument's sake. Sometimes that can't be built in. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we say it's built in, but it's the quarterback's going to be freaking, having to escape danger
right.
a little bit.
The big challenge for us, so for you guys to understand, for us, we only get 17 practice for the first game and no spring practice. So there's not a lot of time to do all the extra work. So
Right.
the simpler, the better. So
Yep.
for us, it's going to be, scan it and get the back out as much as possible so he can have a check down so the ball can get out. And that's kind of the way we've been doing stuff this last year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else have some thoughts in terms of just the protection philosophy and schemes and different rules for your guys and different adjustments up front with the linemen? Having those guys give the ability to give some signals has always been good. Especially, Carnell, you guys probably can't hear based on your stadium you play in, the different signals, whether, we would have, he would put a hand up if he was going to fan out something. We had our tackles doing that. If they were going to go down inside for whatever reason in gap, they'd be tapping the hip. Because I know, sometimes you can't hear. So you have to have some verbal, some non-verbal communications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we in our offense, we always did the third down with big 6-man protection where we have the short side, the man side. Then kind of the way we taught it, and all in one with your scan, search, and your spotting it. We basically taught it where we go wheel, sky to scan to the 4th. So our scan was actually your search, but we just had the ability to go wheel, sky. I guess in yours scan is wheel and kind of the sky look that we talk about.
Yep.
So we put a lot on the backs, to really be able to do a read and come back to the field if they brought for a week.
Yep. Okay. How involved, let me ask this question to guys. How involved are you? Does anyone, let me ask this question, let me present it a different way. Does anybody in their game planning sit down and have protection meetings prior to doing stuff, watching the blitz reel, so to speak, and identifying the potential problems that you could see this upcoming week before the pass guys go in and start drawing routes on the board? They understand what the potential problems with the protections are.
Yeah, we do it all the time. Me and O-line coach get in.
Right, that's right.
First thing we do on Sunday after we finish turning in our grades, we watch the protection tape because we go right after. We got to practice after that, and we have a blitz pickup night in practice. So, which I think is beneficial. That's the first time we kind of really, like we always did it with the O-line, but it's the first time I really made it just the initial. This is what we're going to concentrate on because this is what can beat us.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
those guys go drawing up stuff. They don't have a clue. They put us in, they can compromise us when they go drawing up routes and stuff.
Hey, you know what, Eric? I like that, man. I think I need to do that because our guys like to come out that first Sunday and draw up routes, and I'm like, dude, we ain't got the protection down. So I'm arguing with them like, are we gonna do the protection? O-line coach like, I'm out. They talking about routes and all this. Go. So I like what you said, and I think that's our issue. We need to be able to, get in our protection stuff first.
Yeah.
And understand that in that game planning piece before we get into the other part of it. And I like, when you said that all about what should be our job responsibility. And that's one of mine. And I think I just got to make a priority that on Sunday, we're going to be able to protect the quarterback before you start drawing up any new routes you want to run and add to the scheme.
Yeah. And like I said, just know what the problems are. Sometimes you look at what your opponent brings, and there's not issues. It's like our normal rules. We're good here. Someone mentioned like a radar defense, guys walking around. Well, okay, we need to all talk about this. We got to make sure we're all on the same page here. Hey, when they get into their 5 down out of dime personnel, how are we going to handle that? Just whatever those situations are, communicate and make sure you're on the same page, and then know what the problems are. Hey, if they bring this, the quarterback's going to have to do something, because we can't protect this look unless he does something.
Another quick question for some of you guys. What, like Eric, you talked about that meeting with your O-line. What's the preparation before that meeting? Are you bringing, some of the, the clips already from the other team? Or are you guys sitting there watching the film together to get it done?
No, but what I didn't mean the whole offense coming there. Just
No, not the whole offense, just you and the O-line.
Right.
What's your
We got just a cut up of the 4 down blitzes and the 3 down blitzes, the ones that they run, whether they come with 3 or 4 down, and then we'll just look at it. And sometime we would break it down also too, whether it's boundary, whether it's field blitz, whether it's an internal blitz with the cross dogs, or whether they have like the little radar deal where they line up if they run that. But most of the time that's already broke down, and we'll come in and just watch what we need to watch, because sometimes teams run about 5 or 6 blitzes, and you can't put 5 or 6 blitzes in basically one day when we out of practice. So we try to get the main ones with the highest percentage, and then we go from there for us getting our kids focused on this, and then implementing the other blitzes within the week, whether it's come through the running game or whether it's come through we doing something with the scout team. So, but I think just whatever the highest percentage blitzes is, and the ones that's like you said been giving us problems all year and we haven't fixed it, and the team's still doing it, right, we need to get that corrected. I don't care how long we stay up there, we need to figure it out, because it can cost everybody.
So, Coach, one thing I started doing a couple of years ago was I just took like blitzes, kind of like what you have, Coach Walker, is like just like blitz families, and you breaking the film down. Just have like a column, like I think you guys use Huddle, Coach Lang, and just have blitz family, right? And just so you can just kind of group them. Hey, this is edge blitzes, this is the interior, whatever it's going to be, and then you just kind of sort them out. And then so our O-line coach and I, we share an office. And so basically every day in practice, we take about a 5-10 minute period, and just the O-line running backs, we get together and we'll even just do a self-service period and just run the blitzes versus our base protection stuff. And so every day we're getting some blitz work. Also our defense runs blitzes like crazy anyways. So we're getting the stuff we need to see on Saturday versus our own ourselves every day. And that's the way we end up working it, just to make sure that our kids are on the same page, seeing what they're going to see that's going to be for Saturday.
I think what the biggest thing is, like what both you guys said, is both coaches coming together before, and I just wanted to know that preparation before it, because I got the cut-ups.
Yeah.
It's just us getting together to make sure it's clear. And I think that's the key piece that's missing. That needs to happen. Thank you guys.
Also, too, Coach. Also, what we do too is, we have at least 2 blitz pickups per practice.
Oh,
and that's at the beginning. Whether we have walk through, the guys that's not in special teams walk through, we're doing a blitz protection with the cards, and then when we get into practice, we have another specialties period. And if you're not on special teams, you're at the blitz pickup. And most of whether you come over there late, because you're in the special teams, but we having that other blitz pickup,
I like that. 2 of them.
The other thing too that's helpful, and once again, time may not let you do this, but one of the things too that's helpful is to be able to draw the blitzes out. Whether you hand draw them or whether you can do them on the computer. And so like if you had a base template, and this is something that you can do in the off season, is have like a base template and just have like different families of blitzes already drawn up. And then you take something like this and you just copy and paste to the particular game plan. This just happens to be like one of the team's, favorite third down pressures. So we would put, however many, it looks like there's 12 on here, 6 on a page, or 6 on a page. And then, but you could build out like a blitz deal, have it in your computer, and then you're just kind of copying and pasting to put on a game plan sheet or putting into the scouting report. As an example, is work that can be done off season. Here's all my 4 strong blitzes. All the things you've seen on film that could hit you 4 strong. Here's my 4 weak. Here's my inside stuff. Here's the 3-man blitz families. Sometimes I would spend time with our defensive coaches and just look through their playbook and talk through the blitzes, and then just have those all categorized. And now when we get to the season, we're putting together our scouting report. That 3-4 cross dog, either I draw it up or boom, I just got it right here and I just put it on my sheet. So there's a lot of that. To me, you can prep beforehand. Like in the off season now, go through your opponent's third downs and know your league. Like, if you got 17 league or 18 league, whatever, those other 7 teams, you should have a little third down menu of what they do, what they bring, and then that way, when you get into the season, you're a step ahead, and then you've got stuff you can be working on. Because like in the spring, obviously we get tied into what is our defense doing, because that's our opponent. During the season, it's what you get from the weekly opponent. But other times in your meetings, as you're talking about different things, I like to reference it through the division. Like I would, so I was in Detroit for 3 years. So I had my cut-ups of everything the Bears, the Vikings, and the Packers did, because that was 6 of our games. So all their third down defensive calls, and we would look at that in the off season or when we're doing some of our studying, just to get familiar with those concepts. Like I said, I think that's something I would suggest to you guys is, just your, whether it's third and medium plus, this is, from Eric, from your standpoint, okay, here's North Carolina's, I looked at 6 games, and these are their third and medium and third and long blitzes. So you kind of got those in a family, and you kind of can figure out how you want to label them. Hey, they bring 4 weak, they bring 4 strong, they bring single backer, they bring single safety. They've got an odd package, they've got a bear package. Move on. Okay. Now I'm looking at Syracuse. They do this, that, and the other. To me, that becomes very helpful, because then what it allows you to do is it almost like, so the offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, when he was in Detroit, he would go through the season that way from a base standpoint and from a sub standpoint. So he would have on a sheet of paper like a note, okay, when we play the New York Jets, base, they're a 4-man front, even under family, minimal blitz, man package, we've got to beat man free, and we've got to beat this. Third down, they're multiple, they've got nickel, dime, they play a quarter package, this, that, and the other. And he would have every team on the schedule, and he would just have his cliff notes of the defense, and that just helped him, another way to help prepare him, as he was getting ready for a game or getting ready for, okay, we're in the summertime now. What blitzes do I want to show the team? If we got a little blitz drill I put together for the backs, well, I'll take one of these. I want them to have a 4-3-4 blitzes, odd blitzes. I want them to see 4 even blitzes. I want them to see 2 bear blitzes. I want to see 2 double barrel blitzes. And then, okay, these are the most popular we're going to see. Put them on a sheet, give them to the guys, or use that for test materials. Get work done now, I guess, is what I'm saying for the blitz stuff, because the defensive coordinator, if the staff hasn't changed, this guy's going to call the same shit he's been calling.
That's one of those things that's good for us, because we're in our community college area. Most of the guys haven't changed.
Yeah.
And kind of, and I like what you just said, going through. But what I think I should need to do is break down our blitz thing. So we did exactly what you said. We're going off season. He does those general statistic pieces.
Yeah.
So then I go through and break it down. But I think, like I said, what Eric was talking about, the biggest thing that I'm missing is I'm not using that online coach with that that mindset, and that needs to also come together.
Yeah.
So what I think doing this, what I need to happen during this offseason, me and our line coach, we also need to come together. So we need to be on the same page before we jump into the group meeting with even the offensive coordinator,
Right.
and then before we even hit practice. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest one.
Yep.
So with us, it's not the resources, it's the time of us not always, being in the office at the same time,
Right.
Yep.
And then, like you said, like a discussion like we just had, though, understanding your scheme and what you're doing and how you're doing it, making sure you understand his adjustments or the offensive coordinator's adjustments for problems. They understand your language. And then it just, when you communicate, you can communicate so smooth. So maybe we're not in the office together, but we can be talking like we're talking. We don't have film on right now, but we could talk through problems like we just kind of did. Hey, 4-man front, they bring Will Sam. We know this is going to compromise the protection. Quarterback's going to have to do something or it's built in. Hey, they bring this, they bring that. Those are good discussions in both run and pass, and I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. We've got to be on the same page with our offensive line coach, and everything. I mean, to make the operation run smoothly. All right. With that said, I'm closing up shop. I'm looking at the clock. It's almost 6 o'clock. I know, Leighton, you got another meeting you got to get to.
Oh, yes.
And everybody else got to get ready for dinner. So I'm gonna close it up. But I appreciate the flexibility to be able to do this today. And we'll probably be back on our normal schedule as we get into next week. But I'll try to turn around and have this film up, if not tomorrow, at the latest on Tuesday morning, but probably can get this turned around pretty good. All right, gentlemen.
All right. Like a plan.
All right. Appreciate it. All right, guys.
Fellas,
All right,
fellas.
fellas. Yep. Everybody have a good
be
night.
safe, fellas. Be safe.
Yes, sir.
No problem.
All right. See you guys.